Hey, Mike Gerberding here. Say, I just wanted to share with you guys some of the things that I see in the retirement space. If you're planning on retiring in the next 5, 10 years, or you currently are retired, listen up because this is pretty important. What we're talking about today is the number one fear that Americans have when facing retirement. And that number one fear is running out of money. Now, is this one of those fears that's irrational, or do you think it actually has some substance behind it? I believe it has substance behind it, and it's a valid fear. And why is that a valid fear? There's a number of factors that can influence this. Number one would be increasing taxes. You may not think that's a big threat, but if all your money is in IRAs and 401ks and you haven't paid taxes on any of it, that tax rate could go up in the future, and then all of a sudden, the government decides that you owe more taxes on your dollars, and then therefore you have less money to go buy groceries and to live on. So that is a very real threat. In the news lately, they've been talking about 70% or higher for the ultra rich, and you may think that doesn't affect you, but I can assure you, if they're looking at 70% for the uber rich, they're going to look at high tax rates for everybody. And the reason that's there is because our government has $22 trillion in debt, and pretty soon they're not going to be able to pay that debt. That's a real issue. We're underfunded liability, Social Security, Medicare. Those are big threats, and the government's got a lot of money to pay for. So that is a threat. Number one. Number two would be the reduction of your Social Security benefit. A lot of people think that will never happen, but if you actually look on your statements over the last few years, there's a disclaimer right on your statement that says, without legislative reform by a certain date in time in the future, that your Social Security benefit will be reduced up to 24%. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. I would say probably not, but it's still a threat. It's something that could affect your income down the road. The third threat would be a market crash. You guys all remember what happened back in 2008. I mean, if that happened again in that same magnitude and you lost half of what you have or more today, or 5 years or 10 years from now, it doesn't matter when it happens, but if it happens in your lifetime, if we go through another major market crash, especially if you're drawing on those assets, what's that going to do for your income? That's a very real threat. Not trying to be a fearmonger, but it's a potential threat. And people know it. The other threat that we see is inflation. How far is your dollar going to go, 20, 30 years down the road if you live that long? What's inflation? Well, it's how much you can buy with your dollar. How much was, I've got 4 kids, so I know a box of Cheerios, depending on where you go, can easily be $3.99 a box. If you go to Byerly's or something like that, you could probably pay $4.49 or $5 for a box of Cheerios. Well, what was that 30 years ago? 80 cents? I don't know. But that's inflation. Just the cost of goods are going up, therefore the dollar doesn't go as far. And then another real threat is longevity. A lot of people think they're not going to live very long, but you go ask some of these doctors, it's their job to keep you alive. They're getting better and better and better at medical advancements and keeping people alive. I wouldn't be shocked, in the next 10, 15 years if 70 was the new 50. If medical advancements keep moving in the way they're going, we could see some almost miracle type systems in place to keep people alive. So, longevity is a real threat. So what happens to the people that, have gone through this in the past? Well, number one, they're like super stressed out, right? They're running out of money. That feeling of actually going through it, going through a market crash, having taxes go up, just not having their dollar go as far as what they were used to. What happens? Well, you become, depressed and sad and fearful, and just a lot of negative emotions that kind of go along with that failure. And I think that's why people are worried about running out of money, is they realize that these threats are real, and they're asking themselves, well, geez, what the heck do we do about it? Our guy's not telling us. That's probably why you're watching this video. You're trying to figure out what to do about it. Well, I'll tell you the solution. There's a ton of economists out there. There's Nobel peace-winning economists that have studied this issue out. And there's not 100 optimal ways to protect yourself. They say the number one thing that you can do to protect against all these threats, or a large majority of these threats, is to get guaranteed lifetime income. Now, what does that mean? You could say Social Security is a guaranteed income. You could say your pension, Social Security income. There's some risk there of them being reduced, but potentially, it's income. It's something that you can count on. It's a paycheck. It's an income that keeps coming in, so you can afford to pay your bills, buy your groceries, and pay for things that you need. So guaranteed lifetime income. There's financial institutions out there that have these features that essentially guarantee that if your account hits zero, they still continue to pay you. That's guaranteed lifetime income. That's a powerful thing to have. And then there's also all these other threats that we talked about. A lot of financial institutions have components along with their guaranteed lifetime income that offer inflation protection. They offer nursing home protection. They offer potential ways to pay your taxes now and convert all your qualified funds over to Roth IRAs. So those distributions will be tax-free. There's stock market protection. They have indexed accounts that have floors on them of 0%. So if the markets do crash, you won't lose anything. I mean, there's instruments out there that offer protection against all these potential threats. And so I'd encourage you, if you haven't thought about this, I would encourage you to think about it. If you need my help, please contact me. If not, if you have somebody you love or trust or whatever, contact them. But have this conversation. Guaranteed lifetime income is what's going to give you the peace and the solitude that you'll want and need in retirement, and to protect you against from a lot of these potential threats out there. So, all right. I hope that was helpful to you guys. Take care now. Bye-bye.